This is list of top billion Bitcoin millions. The top 5 as of today. Please subscribe to my channel if you're not done so.
I'll answer that question by saying that I have a friend in 2011 that had been following Bitcoin. It was around $1 or $2. He really wanted to buy a ton of it. But he was trying to get his money together, he couldn't decide whether to pull the trigger, and all of a sudden, Bitcoin had its first major run up and went up to $30. And he was like, shit, I gotta get in. He poured all of his money in. And guess what happened next? Went back down to $2. And all of his friends, all of his family were like, you're a moron. He just felt like an idiot, he was suicidal, and he was like, well, I can't sell, there's no point in selling at this point. And he held, and he holds to this day, and well, he doesn't look like an idiot anymore. So it's possible to buy in a bubble, buy an undervalued asset in a bubble. Bitcoin today may go down 90%. It will still be higher than its all-time highs a year ago. And then I still think if it achieves just its potential as a digital gold, it will be worth exponentially more than it's worth today. I mean, my price target is $1 million. And other crypto assets have varying pricing, but it's all much higher than it is today. These blockchains are about network effects. So if you're worried about buying into a bubble, your worries should be based on short-term versus long-term outlook. If you believe that this technology is good, then if it goes down 90%, it doesn't matter. It gives you another buying opportunity. And long-term, it should go up much more. So that's the only buying advice I'm going to give tonight. So don't ask me later. I was a troublemaker. I was a bad student. 3 months before graduation, I got kicked out of high school. If you could summarize me in one word as an adolescent, the word I think most people who knew me then would be delinquent. And I'm a child of the Great Recession. I lived through the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression, and I know better than to trust government. You don't change the financial system by asking for it. I had been looking for a way to create change in the world at scale. And Bitcoin had the inkling of the sort of potential to change the world. My parents were not exactly enamored with my newfound obsession, but they couldn't be mad that I was going out and founding a nonprofit and organizing students and getting written about in the news. When I had first discovered it in 2011, Bitcoin was worth less than $10. By 2013, it had gone up to $100 and it looked like it was going up much further. I first bought Bitcoin at around $200 when it was first rallying in 2013. And I ended up selling it at $1,000, thinking it was a bubble, not having any appreciation for the technology. By the time anyone watches this, the price will be something far different, but today it's $16,000 or so. It's been the most insane month of trading and price movement in the history of this technology. Bitcoin, to me, it was never about the money. What excited me about Bitcoin was the technology. The idea that you can have a form of money that's independent from the state, it's a very powerful concept. It's literally like a Swiss bank account in your phone. And that's an incredibly powerful concept. The reason why the Crypto Castle, my house, exists, what we had created was quite magical, and so I continued to rent this house out to incredible entrepreneurs, young people, technologists, programmers. Many core developers, founders in this industry have stayed at this house. Comma AI, a self-driving car startup, was founded in my basement. What I hope for this place, and the reason why I live here, is like, yes, I could afford a very nice luxury apartment now, but I'd much rather have a house full of brilliant people that inspire me every day.
Charlie Shrem, an outspoken supporter of Bitcoins, was sentenced to 2 years in prison on Friday for indirectly helping to send $1 million in the digital currency to the internet black market bazaar Silk Road. Shrem, a former vice chairman of the Bitcoin Foundation, was also ordered by U.S. District Judge Jed Rakoff in Manhattan to forfeit $950,000 after pleading guilty in September to aiding and abetting an unlicensed money transmitting business.
Talk to me about the pricing, because that seemed to really catch anything that can move in price of 46%, which would be hundreds of millions of dollars. Did that happen in your network as well? Did you see this network-wide?
Definitely. Bitcoin's traditionally been very volatile as far as currency.
46% overnight? That's incredible.
Quite a bit. When I first got into it, it was 6 cents. I bought a bunch at 20 cents, and then we saw it, creep up to $1, reach dollar parity, and then in July of 2011, it hit $31, and then from there it went back down to about $2.
When I try to explain what Bitcoin is, and I can't, but I try to use the notion of the minting of the coins, of course, is so important, and the scarcity value. I think of it like prime numbers, where the first prime numbers were easy to get to. But as they got bigger and bigger, it's harder and harder, and therefore the computing power, the possibility of mining them, becomes much more difficult. Is that the right kind of?
That's a fair comparison. It's more based on the amount of people that are doing it and the amount of power that's going into it. The protocol actually controls it. So if more people mine and more power is put into mining, it'll become more difficult to balance it out. And then if people start moving away from Bitcoin, it'll become easier to encourage people to mine more.
I've also read the suggestion that Bitcoin, because it's government-free, it's untraceable, that it's going to naturally gravitate towards those pieces of commerce that want to be government-free and untraceable. That is, drug dealing, I don't know, child porn, whatever kind of things. Is that the fundamental nature of this, or at least was that the first growth in the usage of Bitcoin?
I mean, I think you're going to see a lot of areas like adult entertainment where it's nice to have the pseudonymous nature of it, which is like people like PayPal for that reason too. You don't have to reveal your banking information or anything like that. You don't have to reveal a credit card number that someone can steal. I think in some ways it's actually a lot easier to track than cash. I mean, with cash, yeah, there's a serial number on there, but nobody follows that. With Bitcoins, there's some breadcrumbs. There's a trail for investigators to look at. So in some ways, it's actually a lot more transparent than cash.
Talk to me about the volume that you've seen and how that's changed over time. I wonder if an event like yesterday is people running for the exits, or if it's quite the opposite, where you've got people actually coming in and buying even more, recognizing it as maybe an opportunity.
Right, right. So, I mean, over the last couple of months, we've seen a lot more professional investors. Like my company, TradeHill, we're getting a lot of people that are calling up and they're saying, hey, I'm a professional investor out of New York. I want to get into this. I've heard about it. A lot of the VC community is really get into it. Originally, they were just kind of, they were looking at it and they're saying, should I invest in Bitcoin or not? Should I invest in Bitcoin companies? Now they're saying, which companies should I put my money into? So you're seeing a lot of professional traders, a lot of institutions, a lot of the VC community actually sinking their money into it, which is causing the price to rise a lot.
But it's a pure economic instrument, right?
Right.
I mean, you know, I've read this compared to gold because it has no actual functional value, but merely the value someone else will pay for. But gold actually can be made into jewelry. Bitcoin,
Right.
not so much.
That's true, but I mean, there's plenty of things that don't have much of a real use that have a value. You know, if you have a Picasso painting, somebody wants to pay $20 million for it, it's worth $20 million. And Bitcoin is the same way. It's supply and demand. You know, there's not anything backing it like there is, you know, gold. There's not a physical, tangible object. But the fact that someone's willing to pay for it and someone's willing to pay a little bit more than them rises the price up. If everybody wants to sell it, the price will go down.
So I understand the speculators are changing from individuals to people with more money, professional investors, maybe even funds.
Right.
But what about the usage case? How has that changed over the course of the last 6 months?
So I think a lot of people are starting to use it for international remittance. For example, I paid a developer in the UK in Bitcoins. I sent it to him. It took less than an hour. He lost about 2% in the transaction. The bank was going to take 8%, 3 to 5 days, and then charge me $35 on top of that. Also, there's a company called BitPay. BitPay has something between 3,000 merchants, I believe, that people can actually buy things with Bitcoins. For example, WordPress now accepts Bitcoin, Reddit accepts Bitcoin. So there's a lot of real-world goods and services that are being added to the Bitcoin ecosystem.
Digital economy going to an entirely different level. Who would have thunk it?
I'm Rebecca On with Money in Tech here at the Bitcoin Job Fair at Plug and Play in Sunnyvale. And I'm joined by Tony Gallippi, CEO of BitPay. Thanks for joining me, Tony.
Hi, Rebecca.
So BitPay, you guys were major sponsors of this event. Tell me how that happened, how that conversation came about.
Well, we've been working with the guys at Coinality for a couple of months and constantly posting jobs on their site. And when we heard about the event, we decided that it would be a good opportunity for us because we just opened our office here in San Francisco about a month ago. We're looking for all types of talent, from sales and marketing to tech to full-stack developers. So we felt it was a great event, and based on what we see, it's going to exceed everybody's expectations.
How much of the pre-planning of the event were you involved in?
Well, mostly my staff handled it, but when they presented it to me and they said, hey, there's an opportunity to sponsor a Bitcoin job fair, and it's going to be in Silicon Valley, we said, yeah, we should definitely be here. So we gave them the highest level sponsorship that was available, and we're here.
And how is it going so far?
It's going good. I mean, the turnout has been a good stream of candidates. Seems to be some extremely well-qualified candidates coming through. So, yeah, we're excited.
And what areas specifically are you most interested in hiring right now to grow BitPay?
Well, we need engineers. We need developers. Front-end, back-end, UX. We need a lot more software to be built in order for us to scale as a company. So mostly we're looking for developers at this point.
And what projects would you have them focus on at BitPay once you hire those engineers?
Well, we've got a lot at BitPay. You know, there's, of course, the back end, which is all the nuts and bolts of the payment processing, which, you know, we need new features there. We need more front-end features that our merchants are asking for. We've got some open source projects like Bitcore and Insight and Copay that our engineers get to work on. So there's a lot of stuff.
And what about you? How are you doing? What is the latest thing on your plate right now?
So we are growing as a company and taking a company that was started by two founders and scaling it into a large organization is a challenge. So we are opening up offices around the world. We also added an office in Amsterdam. We've got 2 people over there right now. We're going to be hiring some more. And we have an office in Argentina. We've got 6 guys down there. So we're on 3 continents, North America, South America, and Europe. And we're going to continue to grow this year. And so I'm spending a lot of my time working on our expansion and our growth overseas.
Are you looking at China at all?
China's interesting. We are looking at China, but the market there is a little bit uncertain at the moment. So we're going to wait and see a little bit longer on China. I think you've got markets in Southeast Asia, such as Malaysia and the Philippines, which are going to be explosive with Bitcoin because it's a technical population. Same with India. you've got 1 billion people there and they speak English and they're technical. So there's a lot of opportunities in Asia, outside of China that I think are really worth considering.
That makes sense. Well, thank you, Tony, for taking the time to talk to me.
Yep. All right, it's been a great show.